We're live.
All right, thank you. Give it a few seconds here to strike six. All right, it is 6 p.m. The June 27th, 2023 meeting of the Dexter Township Planning Commission will please come to order. Just by way of introduction, I'm Marty Straub, members of the Planning Commission. To my left, your right, Township Treasurer Maris Metz, Chandra Hurd, Alicia Abbott, Tom Lewis, and Christy Mayer. Missing, so far at least, is Bob Nestor, who may yet appear. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on our agenda is conflict of interest review. Anybody have any conflict of interest they'd like to declare? Okay, I have one that's kind of odd. I have a non-conflict of interest that I'd like to declare. This is going to sound a little bit odd, but especially since we're dealing with master plan, it came to my attention a little bit ago that there is a development in front of, I guess it's Chelsea City Planning Commission. The development representative, excuse me, is named David Straub. No relation to me. And I've never considered Straub to be a very common last name, although I've done my best. I've got 5 adult sons, one of whom is named David, but not that David. Neither me. I should ask the teacher. There he is. I should ask the teacher whether it's neither me or neither I. But anyhow, neither moi nor anyone in my family is related to any development, current or in the past generation, I guess, in the area. But I just thought it was odd that, somebody in Chelsea with one of the kids' names promoting that, but no relation. Mr. Nestor, welcome. We're just going over the...
Did I miss the pledge?
You missed the pledge.
Oh, boy. I had a contractor show up at 5:30 or something.
I thought about coming over and picking you up, but I was like, he's probably...
He had to look at that stuff today, so sorry.
And we're just covering the conflict of interest review. So any conflict with tonight's agenda item, which is master plan?
Other than my timing, no.
Oh, good. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. I don't have what I'd consider an agenda item so much, but there is an item that I want to bring up. I guess I'll do it under concerns. There's an opportunity for a workshop tomorrow that I didn't realize until way late. I sent you all an email on it this afternoon, but unless anybody wants that to be a for real agenda item, we're not appointing anybody to attend it. Anybody else have anything they'd like to do with the agenda?
The only thing I would make a comment about on the agenda is the agenda. It says May, unless they were all changed, it says May 20, oh, yours was changed. Mine says May 23rd.
Oh, for the minutes of the previous meeting? Yeah.
It says Planning Commission meeting agenda, May 23rd. It's not, it is the agenda, but it was just a different date. But yours is correct.
Well, mine shows the right agenda, but it's the minutes of the May 23rd meeting that we're going to
Right,
approve
and that's
later
on
on.
there. Oh, wait a minute.
You might be looking at the minutes, Bob, right?
What does that say?
Or last meeting's agenda.
Yeah,
That's why I picked up in my packet.
Oh, because I have the May meeting minutes and then the agenda for tonight.
There wouldn't, it's, all it is just a date incorrect.
What says discussion of the plan, and this says
Did you pick up
recommendation.
I picked one up,
Was that last month's packet or this month's?
maybe it was, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, because I didn't even look for a packet. I just printed the stuff out. Well, you
I just
printed
took it
that,
out
and
of
then I
the
printed
box,
the...
that's all.
Oh, that
Do you,
was a leftover?
do you want me to go print him a copy, or
No, I was out of town.
not
last-
necessary? Or?
Do we have
All right,
copies on the
never
table
mind.
back there? We'll get you all fixed up.
Okay.
No.
Do we have an agenda back there?
Yes, we do.
All right. So with that, did anybody have any alterations to
very
the
much.
agenda?
Aha, no.
Thank you, Maris.
Yeah.
All right, hearing none, the agenda will be approved as presented. So public comment, we have no public in attendance, but if the record would please reflect that we did call for public comment at 6:05 PM. Opened and closed. So our action item for this evening, what's actually before us is the Planning Commission's recommendation to distribute the master plan to the draft master plan to the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees from there will facilitate the, what are we calling it, the public input phase of it that will take up most of the rest of the summer. But at this point, we just want to make sure that we've got the document the way it's supposed to be before we forward it on to the Board of Trustees. So Chrissy had sent in a list of typos, and then I had been sitting on a list of typos, and I thought, well, darn, that was a good idea, so I sent mine in too, so you don't have to listen to me drone through commas and stuff like that. I do have some other things, but that was that. So let's start with, does anybody have any comments? So at our last meeting a couple months ago, there were some written comments, and I presume that especially those of you who made those comments have checked to see that they got incorporated okay. I didn't try to go through and double check all of that, but did anybody have anything else, additional substantive or typo or?
I have one, just quick comment that I could have sent to David. I apologize. It's not really a typo. In the transportation section of the plan, the village of Dexter did become a city in 2014, and it's still called out as a village in the plan. I know anyone from the city of Dexter reading this would like to have them.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a
That,
city.
yeah, there were several occurrences of that, so that was part of my comments also.
Yeah, I thought we talked about, did talk about that during the steering committee, and, yeah, okay. that didn't-
I just
Yeah.
noticed that in the transportation section. And then my other question is for David. The public hasn't seen this at all yet. It wasn't in any packet on the website, so they haven't seen it at all. So then the question to the chair, this is getting forwarded on to the Board of Trustees for their public hearing process, but it doesn't ever come back to us again, correct?
It will come back to us after that, and then what? We will make a recommendation to the township board to approve whatever form it's in at that point.
After the public hearings, okay?
Yeah, yeah, so this is not our last attempt at it.
Okay.
Yeah, it will go to the Board of Trustees, and if the Board of Trustees releases it, then it's open for the 60-day public comment period, and then it will come back to the Planning Commission, before it goes back to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? So when it, after that 63 days, it comes back here, based on comments and that, will we be going over any additional changes that might be
Yeah,
noted?
that is intended. If there's substantial changes, then obviously the Planning Commission will spend more time with it. But the consultant will be kind of tabulating those changes or those comments. And that's, I think the next Planning Commission will be much more be like a kind of a working session with the consultant here to go over some of those changes. Some of those changes, or proposed changes, may not actually happen. Everything will be discussed with the Planning Commission.
So the consultant will make the decision on what's substantive and what?
No, what they're gonna do is there's gonna be a couple of open houses, kind of like charrette type things. There'll be one at the fire station, substation, probably one here as well. And they're basically just going to assemble and collect some of the comments. If there's a reoccurring theme, they may emphasize that more, they may recommend it be incorporated. if they'll potentially just provide you with all the information. And, depending on how well attended these sessions are, depending on what comments there are from adjoining townships, the city of Dexter, there may be some additions to some of the sections, but the planning commission will review that and decide if those are appropriate to incorporate into the draft.
So, okay, so if the public makes the comments and the BOT has comments, and then they change it, like they have for us, when the planning commission has gone through and they've went ahead and made changes, will they make changes again? And then what if the planning commission, when it comes back to the planning commission, they don't agree with the changes the BOT made or vice versa? How does that work?
That's a good question. That's going to be government action. Ideally, the changes won't be so dramatic or so substantive that I think everyone knows the document pretty well at this point. There could be tweaks here and there, but I don't anticipate there being a whole new
Well, the board,
section.
the steering committee and the planning commission, they know the document, but not the BOT. And I'm just wondering if if members of the BOT have substantial changes that they want to make, are they going to be the planning commission doesn't agree? Because it's a possibility. So I just was wondering, what the process is with that and how that gets worked out.
Yeah, and Marty will be at that board meeting in July, and the consultant will be there as well to provide a presentation. So
Yeah.
the board of trustees understands kind of the scope and the scale and the length of time and the work that's gone into it, and the whole public engagement process that's basically delivering this document. So,
Yeah.
ideally, there may be some suggestions and some comments, but I wouldn't anticipate that the board would intend to rewrite this document, because that would essentially, start this process kind of all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really foresee any huge changes, but, okay. Thank you, David.
Anybody else have anything?
One thought, I noticed on tonight's draft on page 21, there's a reference made to Multi-Lake Water and Sewer Authority. And as I started thinking about that, I'm wondering if the commissioners would entertain possibly adding a bullet item under one of the cornerstones. It could theoretically fit under thoughtful planning for future development, creating a sustainable community, or even protection of our natural resources. As I thought about it, I was kind of leaning towards the thoughtful planning for future development, because I'm looking for something that will draw the attention of future developers. And what I was thinking of, if the commissioners would consider a bullet item under that cornerstone, something to the effect of encourage or require through zoning, expand the use of Multi-Lake Water and Sewer Authority, unused capacity. The Township Board has made substantial commitment to multi-lake sewer, and I'm kind of leaning towards putting a little bit of light on that subject, even to the point where under the, what's the other category where we actually, implementation and so forth, things that could fit into the ordinance, as example, in the open space community and lake residential zoning districts, maybe some type of standard where if a parcel is less than 1 acre, they would need to consider strongly a sewer connection in open space community for residential developments. If there's over X number of units in a development, that they would be required or highly encouraged to get into the sewer district and become part of multi-lake sewers. So I just thought I'd throw that out there and see if the commissioners would be interested in adding something like that. I apologize for waiting until the third week. But
Is there unused capacity in that system?
yes,
Okay, how much?
probably close to a third. I think we have 1,400 capacity right now, residential equivalent units, and I think the capacity is somewhere around 2,000. It actually goes by gallons and so forth, so it equates out, depending upon the usage, commercial or something of that nature. But it affects the efficiency of the plant. Right now, because they're under capacity, they actually have to feed the bugs and so forth that do the digesting and several other considerations that it would be much more efficient as it grows, I guess is where I'm headed.
Did they, when it was put in, they probably anticipated through time what the population was going to be. Did they do that based on the SEMCOG data, or is that?
There was, I believe, yes, SEMCOG was involved. One of the versions that I've heard, and this is just strictly my interpretation of what I've heard, but the plant went through an upgrade that was encouraged by the board membership at that time and Washtenaw County. And the thought was to start receiving septage hauling on behalf of the county, for this end of the county. As they went through the process, upgraded the plant and so forth, they discovered that even though the septage haulers are bonded, there's really no protection on what they pick up. Whether they pick up a hot load of something contaminated, something along that line, and if that gets introduced into the system, the whole thing gets shut down.
That would make sense.
And everybody started backing away and reconsidering, but they were already committed to a larger plant. Plus the growth factor, 2008, 2009 housing collapse and things of that nature, all kind of added to that
Contributed
issue.
to the, yeah.
I'm sorry, is Duletsky hooking up to that?
Yes.
Okay. But the subdivisions that are already there are not hooked up?
No, many of the subdivisions along North Territorial, most of them are Copper Meadows, Hartman Farms, Nature's Preserve, will be hooked up to Duletsky or Hillside Acres. Further down, the Park Lawn Beach Association, down there towards North Lake, they're all on the sewer district as well.
Say that again, please. They're all what?
They're all in the sewer district.
Oh.
Part of the sewer district.
So,
Anyway, just a thought.
well, a couple of comments. I would have some concern of what happens if we use that thing up too fast. And there was some controversy about that over the past couple of years or so. But you had what seemed like a pretty tight definition of, what fits. It's the small parcels close together that really the public would be served by not having on-site septic. But the second thing is that there was pretty strong support for that. I guess we could flip through this and find out, but as I recall, there was pretty strong support for new developments, not new development, but new parcels being developed, hooking up to sewer where it's available. So at least from those who responded to the survey months ago, that seemed to be something that the public favored.
Yeah, I would agree, yeah.
So David, based on everything that Mr. Lewis said, what would we do? How would we incorporate that? And what form would that take? It would seem that the appropriate tone in this document would be to encourage, and then the next step, whatever this document finally becomes, would be the basis for reviewing the zoning ordinance, which I suppose could then require.
Potentially, yeah. At this point, I think language that encourage, and we can encourage that and explore along with multi-lake the possibility of adding more residential parcels to their system. I think they would obviously want a voice in that. They stretch across multiple townships, multiple counties, so I know they have capacity that potentially you can run for Livingston as well. So, but I think putting non-committal language in terms of at least initially encouraging them to explore future sewer district expansion, something that would survey.
So, well, first of all, anybody have objection to that? Hearing none. Secondly, what's the mechanics of that? What's the process for getting what Tom said incorporated into, whichever area of this document?
The process would be, I think we decide here now on potentially which cornerstone we want it under, and some kind of general language, and we can pass it on to the consultant, that craft had it updated.
All right, gotcha. So just like whatever other comments come up tonight, just go on the list and goes to Rowan?
Yeah, they'll be taken down in minutes and we can pull it up.
All right, yeah, good. And maybe, to your question about where it goes, maybe we ought to let the consultant just take a stab at where it fits. I think the important thing is that we get the statement, the recommendation, encouragement in there. And where he thinks it flows, I think is probably okay. I don't have
could
strong
see-
feelings on that.
Yeah, I could see in any one of those
Yep.
3 areas would be appropriate. The only reason I mentioned the future development was I'm kind of assuming that that's the place, the first place that some of the developers might look. but-
Yeah, good point. And I don't guess it needs to be limited to just one area either. There's a couple of other themes that occur, throughout multiple locations. So maybe let's just toss that to Rowan and let him figure it out, come back with it. Now that, I guess, also brings up the question, especially for those of us who are into typos and stuff. So even if we get the substance of this down tonight, I'm not, maybe more of us, not entirely comfortable with the document that, because it's our work product, it reflects on this group, and nothing against, whoever's doing the modifications of it, but I think we'd like to see it to make sure that, yep, that's what we meant, it's nice and neat, and, commas and all that are taken care of. How do we accomplish that, yet stay in the time frame that had been desired? How do we make any changes tonight and get another crack at it before it goes to,
That is an option, you can call a special meeting. Could also ask that the consultant turn those changes around, as long as it's manageable, which it seems to be based on your emails. You could ask them to turn those around in the next week or so, email them to the planning commission for your one more review. If there seems to be, at that point, if the PC is not comfortable with the document, and there's a special meeting or alter the timeline. This document can come
Okay.
to the PC in July, and everything just gets moved a month.
You're
So-
primarily referring to grammatical stuff at this
Pardon me?
point. You're primarily referring to grammatical stuff at this point?
yeah, that's just what I was going to say. So tonight, we should have all the substantive items identified, agreed to or not, and that should just be, okay, let's review it for typos. The issue we need to be careful of is that we don't do anything that appears to be, whether it is or not, even appears to be, like round robin, where apart from an open meeting, where, okay, we had some comments tonight, let's email the thing around and everybody has comments behind the scenes, and then, so that would be a problem. Even the appearance would be a problem if we didn't technically violate the Open Meetings Act. So, not knowing how these, what we consider to be the substantive changes, are actually going to get incorporated, I'm kind of guessing that our review is going to need to be more than, did we fix typos?
I mean, if you'd like to go that route, then to the planning commission, that can hold a fourth meeting. There's no limit, it just adjusts the timeline, that's all. It just changes the
I'm thinking that it's cleaner for a couple of reasons. It does not have any possibility of running afoul of the Open Meetings Act. And we're really going to want to make sure that that what we're talking about tonight, that is more than just the typos, gets incorporated the way it was intended.
One question, if we if we decided to do it informally by way of email, as I understand it, the key factor is to avoid any appearance of deliberation outside of an open meeting. So if folks were to read it, and if it's okay, and just send it back, if there was no exchange of conversation, things of that nature, I think, but correct me if I'm wrong, we would be within the Open Meetings Act and avoiding the bad publicity.
I would think that that would satisfy the technical aspect of it, but I think there's also the appearance of it that, oh, we saw the planning commission was going to take another look at it and maybe discuss it behind the scenes. You know, I don't know if that's a real big deal. You know, I don't know who else is watching us tonight, but nobody was so worried about what we're doing that for the past 2 meetings, they, you know, appeared in person and gave comments. But I would hate to put any appearance of impropriety on the process. No matter what happens, when it's all done and the township board is done with it, there will still be some people who will say, those people. So I just, you know, for the cleanliness of the process,
Better be safe
and maybe,
than sorry.
let's throw the rest of the stuff out that we're going to talk about tonight
Yeah.
and come back and revisit that and see if there's anything that we think, you know, is actually a potential issue like that.
I thought when I first got appointed to this, which is only a couple of years now, but there was actually a schedule of 24 meetings in a year, because there was like a working session the first Tuesday, and then a regular meeting the fourth Tuesday. So could we schedule a working meeting for the second Tuesday in July? And I'm only, because if we have to have another whole meeting on this, and I think it's going to get pushed back, and I thought the township wanted to have it August 19th as sort of an
Yeah,
introduction to the master plan for the community.
That is supposed, yeah, so that is, I think we actually already sent out a flyer. But the plan, I think that the plan that Karen had was that our July meeting is going to be when Beckett and Rader come in and they answer
Yeah.
questions, and the BOT decides to approve it for the public viewing. So she's kind of set everything up around
yes.
that, and also in her absence, Clerk Stamboellis will be conducting that meeting.
So,
So that's why I'm kind of sitting here quiet, because I'm thinking, oh, what are we
yeah,
going to do?
maybe let's discuss the rest of this, and when we get our arms around all that, let's revisit this topic.
Okay.
But yes, what you said is correct, that we're supposed to be 2 meetings. The meeting time that had been designated as our working session, which we did a few times over the years, I think has now been, what was it, that's devoted to local roads committee? Is that right? That's the second Tuesday?
Yeah, it's a second.
Yes.
Yeah, so we don't have that time available anymore. We
Well, actually,
could do it.
I'm not sure we're going to meet in July, because we have a scheduling conflicts
Oh,
for that. For the roads committee members are having conflicts for that July 11th.
gotcha. I don't know. Let's kind of drive through this and then revisit that topic and see if it's a thing or not. I don't want to make a big deal out of something that isn't.
Marty, can I throw something out there?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Expanding on what Christie said, whether they have a conflict or not, local roads can meet downstairs because they are not live streamed. You guys can.
Gotcha.
Here. So you can
That's
have
a
two
good
meetings
point,
going the
Janice.
same night,
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting idea, if needed.
if needed.
And David, if we
Yeah,
wanted to do a
she's the
special
chair.
meeting, what are the notification requirements for special meeting? We need to be, well, they're going way back, as I recall. Yes, the normal way to do anything is you put the notification in the newspaper and all of that stuff. There is also a way that you can post it and I don't remember the exact time, if it was 36 hours, 72 hours, something like that, ahead of the meeting, 18 hours, as long as it's available to people. So post it on the outside bulletin board, not on the inside bulletin board, that would comply.
Yeah, I mean, there would be enough time if you wanted to create a special meeting as a work session during the time. I think after we go through it, if that's the course we're going to go, we just need to know that, because the board is going to need, the board's going to need more than potentially 2 weeks to look over the document.
Yeah, that was another thing.
Potentially affect, because they won't actually, it's still the planning commission's document until it's released to the board of trustees.
And that was another thought, that we would approve this and push it tonight, and then Karen would push it out to the BOT.
Yeah.
And then they would have ample amount of time to look at it prior to our board meeting, so, but, I mean,
So let's keep all this in mind as we go through the next few items, which maybe are only mine, and maybe all we want to do when we get to the end is just designate one of us, or 2 of us, to review it for typos and that sort of thing, so the document that goes forward is what we expected it to be. Maybe it's as simple as that.
okay.
Another thought would be to give the suggestion to the township board and let them put it in.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, that might be, Because we-
Does that get more cumbersome doing that, or?
Yeah,
I mean,
I would suggest if we're not doing anything substantial and significant changes, if this is more grammatical typos, the consultant can correct those, they can coordinate with 1 or 2 planning commission members.
Yeah.
And the board can still have the document in a pretty timely manner.
okay. Yeah, I like that option.
All right. Anybody have any other discussion on that or anything else before I go through my little list? I think it's actually a little list. Okay, the first thing, and just kind of going through this in page order here, the first comment is not really related to the master plan, but I think there is the consideration whether it goes in here or it goes forward in some other way. I was talking to a local farmer a couple of days ago who mentioned that on some of our roads, some of the roads that the bottoms tend to fall out in the springtime especially, that when the road commission uses limestone, especially when they come through with the smaller stuff with the fines in it, after they've, put the bigger stuff in to try to stabilize the base, that runoff from the limestone is increasing the pH of the runoff water and adversely affecting fields and streams, or fields and drains, I guess I would call it. So I don't know that there's a place for it in here, but I just made a note about it in the section, page 67, cornerstone protection of our natural resources. And maybe that's something as simple as the roads committee maybe has a discussion with the road commission about alternatives to that. So anyhow, that's the one issue, has not much to do with, I think, directly with the master plan. My next one is on page 89, and it's probably the, hang on a second, was there one before that? Yes, 85, this is probably also the engineer in me. So there's a statement, and it's made a couple of different times in here. So question 14, what type of sanitary waste system, and this goes right into what Tom was talking about. The response is, at 30%, majority of respondents indicate, and I just have a problem with that, 30% is not a majority of anything. It would more appropriately be called a plurality, but there also, I think, was wording in a couple of different areas that said something like, well, most of the respondents would still imply majority, but anyhow, I just don't want to call 30% majority. 30% might have been the most common response, which in that case, let's call it the most common response, the most prevalent response, whatever. And I think that occurs a couple of times. Page 89, it's a little more involved. So my issue with this one, how many days a week do you work from home? And we say, among the 88% respondents who answered this question, a quarter commute to work daily, 12% commute at least 3 days a week. Okay, two issues I have with that right off the bat, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me earlier. We asked the question about how many days a week do you work from home, but we framed the responses in the context of how many days do you commute? And then we talk about 12% commute at least 3 days a week. Actually, 37% commute at least 3 days a week. That's just the way the math works out. We made an illogical statement here. So in terms of how many days per week do you work from home, if they responded 5 plus, that means they commute 0, and that was 24%. And down at the other end of this, we talked about a quarter commute to work daily. Well, that's those who responded that they work from home 0 days. Therefore, they commute 5 plus days, and that was 25%. But when you add up those who work from home 0, 1, or 2 days, and therefore commute 3, 4, or 5 days, that's 7% plus 5% plus 25% is 37%. So I just like that cleaned up, and maybe the easiest way to do it is we ask the question in working from home. We want to get at how many days do you commute, because we're talking about congestion on the roads and whatever. But it's like the inverse. So the way we ask the question, we can't change. The way we explain the responses, we can change, and to me, it seems like it's probably cleanest if we just do it in terms of the same way the question was posed. So how many days a week do you work from home? 25% said 0, 5% said 1, 7% said 2, 8% said 3, 7% said 4, 24% said 5 plus. And the inverse of that, of course, if you worked from home 5 plus days, you commuted 0. At the other extreme, if you worked from home 0 days, you commuted 5 plus. So I don't know, is that just really confusing? Is it lost on anybody? You're all looking at me like I'm just a nut job?
No, it actually does make sense what you're saying, and also.
Oh, you don't need to say that just to be
No,
nice to me.
You know, I'm retired, I'm in the 24% retired, and I drive on the roads all the time. I mean, just because I'm retired doesn't mean I don't leave the house, so.
Yeah.
There was a category for that if you're retired, and I guess those are more random occurrences than you're trying to get into Ann Arbor by 8 or something
Right,
like that.
right. And I do go on off hours, but.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you would use the roads more. I mean, I know my parents, they're retired, and my dad's in and out all day long.
Yeah, but what are they referring to in terms of commute? Precisely the point.
Yeah. Yeah, so the work from home question ended up being a commute summary. I just think we need to put it in the same terms in which it was asked. David, Janice, did you guys get that enough to where it? I'd be happy to just talk to Rowan about that and let him tell me that I'm hopeless. The other thing I had, and that's the worst one I've got, gang. That's the other one about majority or plurality is on the bottom of page 91, question 32. What describes where you live? A 40% majority of respondents. It might be better, again, say something like the most common response was by 40% who live on a non-subdivision residential lot, blah, blah, blah. And I think the last thing I had was On page 96, and this was part of the youth engagement, and I kind of mentally noted last time, but should have said something. I've got two issues with this, and David, this is intended to be part of the master plan, the youth engagement appendix.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this is the document, right? So, well, the easy one, S7, it says Hudson River. I presume that one of our strengths is the Huron River, not the Hudson River, so that's just a typo. The two that are more substantive, W5 and W7, we specifically call out in a negative way a person or an establishment that I think is not advisable for us as the planning commission or the township to do. I entirely get where the high school youth were coming from, what their point was. I think that should be stricken or somehow creatively reworded, so we're not putting out something in an official township document.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. I mean, it's almost a free advertisement, or I don't know.
Well,
This
what is Mark from Michigan?
Yeah, I don't understand.
I wasn't
that.
going to say that over the air, but if you Google Mark from Michigan, you will learn probably everything that you care to know.
Okay.
I think technically Mark from Michigan is in Webster Township, not even Dexter Township.
Oh.
Well,
I've
also, I
never
thought
heard.
Jenny's was not in Webster Township.
Jenny's is
Dexter.
also not in
Right.
Dexter Township, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
very true.
Yeah,
So
that's
maybe the
Webster.
cleanest way to do this, David, would be put asterisks on those two and just strike them from the document, but explain with the asterisks that a couple of local
So comments related.
features, local something, are not actually in Dexter Township.
Comments related to features not in Dexter Township.
Yeah, that would probably be a clean way to do that. So that's everything I had, other than, typos. Christie had typos and some substantive comments. I don't know if you wanted to
I mean,
get into those.
Yeah, I mean, they're not particularly complicated. Rowan did add a note about the underpass in the city of Dexter that's a jam, under the railroad. And he took the information from the Sun-Time News article that I think Doug Marin had written recently. But it just says a note with no attribution, and I just thought it should be attributed to the
Yeah, I think that would be a good
Sun-Time News
idea.
article and the date
Anybody have an
was.
issue with that? Tribute the,
And then there was the section where we have, it's page 75, under the zoning plan. Number 1, 3, 4, and 5 have references to specific parts of the zoning ordinance, and 2 and 6 don't. So I didn't know if there was something we could add, and Dave might know this off the top of his head. Is there any sort of section we can add for number 2 and number 6 for the ordinance, or should we, as opposed to amending the existing ordinance, do we need to say create a new provision?
1 and 2,
2 and 6.
2 and 6. I think number 2 is addressed in one of the agritourism, suggesting the cornerstones.
but your point is that the others pointed to the specific section of the zoning ordinance that
Yeah.
We would want
is it like
to
Article 14
address.
or Article,
Yeah.
Section 23? Is there a specific section or article number that could be referenced in 2 and 6?
Yeah.
there for sure is with accessory dwelling units, and I don't remember what zoning ordinance talked about agritourism.
It would more be event space.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But, yeah, we can ask, we can point
you have anything else?
That was it.
So,
Everything else was a typo.
you know, given what we just discussed, what is the group's desire for how to proceed? I get it that I had a real convoluted one about, is it commuting or is it working from home? I'd be glad to talk Rowan through that one and see if we could reword that. These others seem to be, you know, pretty straightforward. I don't think there's a particular problem with incorporating what the thought was, if everybody agrees. And in that case, yeah, maybe it's just simply reviewing it for typos.
Marty, on the comment you had on 89, that chart on the top of page 90 is, I think, a lot clearer than the text. Do you think you could just get rid of the text and look at the chart on the top of page 90?
You know, that's probably the simplest thing. It doesn't fit the format where, you know, this is interpreted with some narrative, but that would be really clean, wouldn't it? I guess we could just simply incorporate a couple of lines of, you know, most people still commute at least, you know, X number of days, something like that. Well, most people, that's not even true. 24%, well, heck, let's just add them up. So 31, 39, 46, 51%. So over half of the respondents who commute at least one day a week. No, I just screwed up the same thing that I said don't screw up. I took the work from home numbers. So 5 plus, oh, and that's only off by 1% though. So going the other direction, 5% work from home one day, 7, 8, 7. So we've got 27. Hang on, start all over. 25% work from home 0 days, plus 5 is 30, plus 7 is 37, 45, 52%. 52% work from home 0 to 4 days, therefore commute at least one day. And that's probably the statement that we ought to put in there. And then refer to the chart, and that gives the detail. We don't have to deal with inverses of commuting versus working from home. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Doggone, the lawyer simplified something for the engineer. Thank you. All right, anybody have any desire to, you know, beat around commuting anymore or move on to anything else? I appreciate that you all stayed with me that long. All right, what should we do next? David, at this point, what is our appropriate action with this? I guess we could formalize it that without asking Janice to try to read back all of these things, that we just formalize it by asking for a motion that would incorporate the typos and comments that have been submitted, plus the comments that we discussed tonight, for a document that if they could turn it around in the next week, did you think was reasonable?
Yeah, I would say that this, considering the level of changes in the
Hold on. Maris, you're saying that Karen wanted to get this out right away, faster than that.
So,
But, I mean-
if it takes a week, it's going to be Rowan. It's a busy man, so he's been forwarded your comments, Christie, out for yours too. As soon as we have a copy of the minutes from Janice, we can send those over to him to incorporate as well. So we should be able to turn this around in a week.
And then, should we send it back to the planning commission, to one or two people, just to check it as to form?
If a couple people would like to volunteer to be kind of the final gatekeepers, I think that would be fine, just to run a pair of eyes over again, and then if no issues, then it can be sent directly to supervisor, which will distribute it to the board. Because they'll want 2 to 3 weeks to go over the document. That'll give them some time to review it.
Is that,
I was just looking at the calendar again.
think that kind of makes sense, or does that,
I
does that
think
throw it
so.
off?
I mean, theoretically, you're saying that we could have it turned around in a week from tonight?
Send Rowan an email.
I mean, there's a
'Cause that
holiday
puts us-
day
Yeah,
or
that puts us at July 4th, that's a
two in
holiday
there.
weekend, and then our board meeting is the 18th, so essentially, even if we did get it
But the board
a week
meeting, I
later.
was thinking the board meeting was the 27th. Or no, that's,
No, it's the
that wouldn't even be the
18th.
right date. Yeah,
It's
the
the
18th.
18th.
Yeah. Yeah, this meeting is the 27th, maybe that's where I got 27th.
Yeah.
And she wanted to get that out in front of everybody, so they have ample opportunity, they're not trying to thumb through it the day before the meeting.
Right, yeah, and
Even-
that,
Even if they get it 7 to 10 days before the meeting, if the board feels that they need more time with the document, then they can spend more time with it.
Yeah.
They can have a special meeting, they can kick it to their August meeting.
Okay,
I think given the nature of the changes, I don't think it's worth the hold up for another planning commission meeting.
yeah.
These are fairly minor
yeah.
changes and tweaks, and I think the sooner you can get it into the board's hands, the better.
And what are we doing with Tom's proposal? Are we waiting to give that to the board? Is that,
I think that's one alternative.
Well, I think we ought to toss that to Rowan, and since it's going to be a recommendation or like a proposed best practice or something like that, that for the purposes you stated, it doesn't become anything legal requirement until after it would be incorporated into zoning ordinance or some other ordinance.
And Rowan will be giving a presentation and answering questions to the BOT for this meeting. So if he kind of has a heads up during that time, it actually might be nice to get Karen Nolte's point of view on this and add, you know what I mean? Because she sits on the Multi-Lakes board. So, I mean, she might really like your idea or add to it or what have you. So I think that would be reasonable to allow the BOT to kind of add that, with your suggestions. But you're saying that you don't want to release it
I think
to the BOT
I
until
think it gets
it's
a little bit
done?
messy if we expect that, BOT is going to add that. If we could add that ahead of time, I think Karen Nolte may want to modify it, or you might want to have some conversation, by email or something, and say, hey, based on your experience and thoughts on sewer authority, does this seem reasonable? Because we discussed it last night, whatever, and we'd like to get that added before it gets to them. I don't want this to get too loose, but
Yeah.
if we could get it to the Board of Trustees, and then like David says, they've got the option, if they need more time with it, they can take more time with it. I don't know there's a lot to be gained by us taking more time with it. Some of these thoughts I had, it would have been really cool if I would have done that last time. Some of this stuff didn't even occur to me then.
Yeah.
So, what would you like to do? I think we should incorporate that. Maybe the wording gets tweaked a little bit later on.
Wordsmithing, yeah.
Yeah, I think the concept, however, goes forward, and let Rowan figure out where he puts it, how he puts it. You might want to put it in a couple of places. I like the idea that if your intent is that it kind of puts developers on notice, that it goes in that section that they're most likely to look at first. So, group, what would you like to do next? I think all those things I said a few minutes ago about, let's have a motion that asks the consultant to incorporate the written responses and the written comments and tonight's comments, including that one, get it turned around back to us, as soon as possible, no later than a week from now. And let's have somebody look it over for form.
I'm happy to look at it. As long, I'm personally leaving town on the Friday the 7th. So as long as I can look at it though as soon as I get it.
And I, of course, can look at it. And if anything gets left out of it at that point, then I think we probably have no choice but reconvene this group in a special meeting and try to not delay too much for Board of Trustees. Janice, was that clear enough to where you can formulate a motion out of that? Should I restate that?
Are you going to include the two people that are reviewing it? And
Yeah, might as well then.
and a date that you want it completed,
All right.
or a date that you want Rowan to get it to you, and a date that you two need to get it back to Rowan? You want to incorporate all that into your...
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All
So
codified.
I'll take a stab at restating that. The chair would entertain a motion to forward to and request the consultant incorporate the written comments that have been submitted, plus our comments this evening. And without explicitly stating that includes, Tom's comment, all the comments that have been made. Requests that the consultant make those changes and send it back to Commissioner Mayor and me by a week from today, at which time we will check it over for form and I will forward it to the township supervisor for distribution to the Board of Trustees in advance of their July 18th regular meeting. That capture everything?
A week from today is the 4th, so maybe.
Then you better
we can
do it
run
faster. Yeah, darn, it's the 4th.
A week from today is the 4th, and you've got the 5th and 6th, and Christie's gone.
Yeah, so let's see. David, if Rowan comes back and says that's entirely unreasonable, I guess we're going to have to regroup.
Well, I guess the question is, do you trust the consultant enough to make these changes, incorporate the comments that have been made tonight, and to send this document on to the supervisor?
Yeah, so this is going to sound stupid. I trust the consultant to incorporate the substantive comments that we have made. I don't think that's a particular problem. Oddly enough, I have more of an issue with some of the punctuation and that. And while I think they've done an excellent job, it is a little bit troubling that we get comments like, or we get errors like Village of Dexter throughout the document when that's been brought up previously at least once. So that is the basis of any discomfort I have for any changes to be made, substantive or not. That's the only thing. I don't want the Township Board of Trustees to get a document that looked like this, which is the purpose of us meeting tonight. So I think we do need to lay eyes on it one more time. Your point is very well taken. And if I at least wasn't as I am, I'd probably not be concerned about that at all. But I think I think the Board of Trustees should be able to rely on the Planning Commission did their thing in its entirety.
I would have to say I agree with you. I mean, even throughout, you've raised many concerns about punctuation, spelling, all of those things during many, many meetings. The fact, I would expect our, Beckett and Reader to, whoever, if they need help, to have somebody edit it
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
I feel like you in particular have done quite a bit of editing, and, I mean, once, twice, okay, but if it's still coming back with edits, I think that, yeah, that's a cause for concern.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like being overly picky either, but it's like if there's misspellings in it, like it looks, it should have been caught by spell check. Then I think if the public gets it, then they start thinking, well, maybe these numbers aren't right, or maybe, there's all these, there's mistakes in
Yes.
here. They start doubting the quality.
Yep.
So I think it behooves us to make sure that to the extent that we can clean it up.
Yeah, for sure, that's the way I am about stuff, and I'm not saying that that's right, but I think there is a certain percentage of the population that, yes, once I see the first error, I don't know that the rest of this is worth a darn.
Yep.
And some of this is really simple. Okay, Dexter's not a village, hasn't been in a good number of years, but also we've got, and now I sound like I'm just going off after them, and that's not the intent. There are lakes that you can doggone look up on a map, and we had like 5 lake names wrong. Here on Clinton Metropolitan Authority, each one of their parks, this is Hudson Mills Metro Park, one word, not 2 words. Those are all easily checked things. And we're trying to help them through that. I would be uncomfortable in not seeing this document before it goes to the Board of Trustees. They should be able, okay, whether we all agree on everything, not the point. They should be able to rely on, we did our job.
So then maybe what I would suggest is then, why don't we give the consultant until Friday, the 7th, no later than Friday the 7th, to return the document with a list of the changes that have been made.
Now, that puts you in a bit of a,
Well, even if you can take the weekend and just go through them, I mean,
and our intent would be transmitted to the Township Supervisor Monday,
and then.
Monday the
That can be transferred, then it can be
10th or
sent
whatever
to-
that is.
I mean,
All right.
it'd be great if we could send it to him tonight, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna be the case, so.
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
I think just, your motion needs to make a formal recommendation, and in that motion, we just need to incorporate, the caveat that it will be reviewed one more time by 2 planning commission members to make sure all grammatical errors are correct.
Do you think we can get back by the 6th? Is that asking too much?
That's a week from Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, we can shoot for that, and send, and I will send Rowan an email as soon as he already has Marty's comments, I'll forward on yours, we'll just need to get, the list of items here from Janice to forward on to, we can make those changes. You should be able to turn those around within a week.
Okay.
If not,
So maybe I need to kind of restate and modify the motion that the chair would like to entertain, which would be that, now it's not that I even start that before. We're going to incorporate, So-
Marty, you can cut through it a little bit. I mean, the planning commission basically needs to recommend that this. that-
yes, at the beginning of that, it should be that the planning commission recommends to the township board all that other stuff I said.
Pending the changes discussed. That-
Yeah, and at the end, I think that it authorizes Mayor and Straub to review the document as to form after those changes have been made, and Straub will then transmit that to the township supervisor.
Sorry, I just have to ask, because I like a plan B. If you guys get it back, it's not okay, and it's still not up to standard, then what?
I think we have to call a special meeting of this board, and it throws the timing kind of to heck, but
Yeah.
Well, honestly, Marty, at that point, you'll be 2 weeks out for the next planning commission, so you might as well then
just delay it a meeting,
have
not do special anything. Yeah, okay.
I just like to be prepared and like it's
I agree.
in the pipeline,
Yep.
so, yeah, thank you.
Okay, everybody have that? All that stuff I said, would anybody like to move that?
So moved.
Second. Wait.
Is that moved by Lewis and seconded by Metz?
Yes.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, let's do roll call vote, please. Metz?
Yes.
Hurd?
Yes.
Abbott?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Nestor? Straub, yes, that passes 7 yes, 0 no, and 0 absent. Okay, now we're cruising. Item 7, approval of the Planning Commission minutes. And I will state openly, I didn't find so much as a comma misplaced in this. Thank you very much, Janice. I don't say that to try to dissuade anybody else from making a comment.
I work very, very hard.
And you do a very, very good job. Anybody have anything?
I had nothing.
Nothing.
If not, could we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented, please?
I'll move.
Was that you?
I think it was both of us at the exact same time. You can take it, I'll second.
Okay.
Moved by Mayor, supported by Metz to approve the minutes of the May 23rd meeting. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. The next item of business, Township Board of Trustees update.
I set, before everybody came in, I set my update in front of everyone. It's a little extensive this month. There's been a lot going on, but these are some of the key points that I think would keep you guys updated. I don't know if you want me to read through them all, or if everybody's kind of just capable of reading through them and then asking questions, or feel free to email me or call with any questions, but I think this is kind of the basics of what's coming up, what's been done.
Yeah, thank you very much for this, first of all. It's very detailed. There's a lot of stuff going on at the township. A few years ago, it had been requested, especially for those who are viewing the meeting, that the Board of Trustees representative actually read the report. I think due to the extensive nature of this one.
I'd be happy to read it.
And
if
we've
you
got
want.
plenty of time, so
Okay.
if you don't mind,
Not
then
at all.
everybody is participating
Yeah.
out in live stream. Thank you.
Yep, no problem at all. Okay, so the first item is staffing and board changes. We've had quite a few. To fill the trustee vacancy, the BOT interviewed 4 candidates during a special meeting at our regularly scheduled board meeting last week. The board appointed Gretchen Driscoll to serve the remainder of our term. We also have a new office manager, Samantha Edwards, and she joined us effective June 5th. I'd like to thank everybody that attended and joined her meet and greet lunch. I know, Marty, that you were there. Alicia, you were there as well. Yep, thank you. With the resignation of David, our Director of Planning and Zoning, Supervisor Sickinga has been working on RFPs and qualifications to contract a planning firm. OHM will take over operations during this transition. Supervisor Sickinga would welcome any recommendations of firms or planners from the commissioners. She also welcomes guidance of where to advertise for this position. So if anybody could email Karen this evening, if you have any recommendations, that would be wonderful. I do have a copy. I can pass it around. I should have printed one for each of you, but this is the request for proposal qualifications. If anybody wants to take a look at that, and if they have any suggestions about that, she's welcome. She's welcoming any suggestions, so and that's what we're sending out. So the strategic planning meeting, Supervisor Sickinga announced a special meeting to revisit the strategic plan created by the BOT in 2021. We set a meeting date of July 11th, but that has since been changed to a to be announced. Supervisor Sickinga would prefer that the BOT focus on reviewing the master plan in July. We are discussing a new meeting date possibly in August or September. And this will also depend on what we do going forward, and how fast we can turn this around for the master plan, and if we do have enough time as the BOT can review it. We would like any commissioners and members of the public to attend for questions, concerns, and feedback relating to the projects and township improvement. So the Multi-Lakes Water and Sewer Authority, Dexter Township has 3 major projects that we've been using the ARPA funds under the Multi-Lakes guidance. That's replacing/repairing the pump on Half Moon Lake, and that has been completed. Replacing the pump at Silver Lake, and that is in the quoting phase. We have replacing and repairing the pump at Copper Meadows. That's also in the quoting and planning phase. These are the road updates, and these were provided by the WCRC that Supervisor Sickinga had included into her supervisor update. So infrastructure repairs, 3 bridges will bring the traffic down to 1 lane for 1 to 2 weeks. Dexter Pinckney Road, North Territorial, and McGregor for concrete repair and epoxy deck seal. 3 neighborhoods have expressed interest in special assessment districts to repair subdivision roads. Many Dexter Township subdivisions are 20 to 30 years old. The typical lifespan for paved subdivision roads, Island Hills Estate, Section 36, Wandering Hills, and Huron Creek Farms / Meadow Creek. Cut back on the hill of North Territorial approaching the intersection of Dexter Town Hall Road. Bid opening is occurring now with construction scheduled for next year. Multi-Lake Sewer Authority will need to relocate a sanitary force main this summer. There will be a significant number of trees cut down this fall. Construction will require closure of the intersection, and there is no nearby primary road detour. Detour signage will be placed in the cities of Dexter and Chelsea to allow drivers to select a different route in advance. The WCRC will provide higher levels of maintenance for Quigley and Brand roads, which are expected to experience higher traffic due to the construction. WCRC has replaced traffic control signs throughout the township with new, more legible signs, especially on Dexter Town Hall Road and also on Fleming and other key spots. Some road surfaces, including Fleming, has had a grippy surface application to enhance safety. The traffic light at Dexter Town Hall Road and North T has been upgraded. The new light has a battery backup that will function during power outages.
Nice.
Yeah. And the WCRC is using Dexter Township's communications about local roads as a model to share with other townships in the area, which I think that's amazing. Kudos to the our road committee. And just a few notes on not traffic, but township safety, so street lights. The township has the authority to have DTE install street lights at the intersection of a local road and primary road. Supervisor Sickinga signed an agreement with the DTE Neighborhood Lighting Program to install a streetlight at the intersection of Dexter Pinckney Road at Horseshoe Bend. A date of the installation is to be announced. Members of the public are encouraged to contact the board at info@dextertownship.org to request streetlights. And then the waterways, a no-wake and speed limit notice buoy will be installed at Little Portage Lake by the Sheriff's Department at some time this summer.
That is, that's not consistent with what the regulations were in the past for Little Portage,
What do you mean, Bob?
the no-wake zone.
Yeah,
There was always a controversy about that. And the controversy was that the no-wake zone, and this obviously it's all changed, I think for the better, personally. But the controversy had always been that there was a no-wake zone by the DNR for that area underneath the bridge and out 20 yards or something. And there was always an argument, particularly with some of the guys that were jet skiing and using wakeboard boats, that the lake itself was not no wake. But this is saying that the entire lake will now be registered as a no wake zone. Is that correct?
No, I think just in that stretch,
Oh, the
that.
same thing, okay,
So the same thing. Now, I don't believe there is a buoy over there right now, is there?
yes, well.
There's
it is,
one-
But I don't believe it's state.
Okay, because, yeah, right, it's, somebody had put one there,
Yeah.
is from what because I went to the PB,
WA.
thank you, PBWA meeting, and, I had talked to Mark Teicher a few different times. I also talked to the sheriff of the Marine Division, Jesse Smith. And so I think that a resident actually put a buoy out there, but I could be
Right, that's right.
confusing that. Okay. So now the township is actually purchasing one, and it will be placed by the sheriff's department.
But it's only meant to refer to that
That-
narrow strip.
that
not the
narrow
entire
strip,
lake.
not the
There's
entire lake.
still, based on all the people that died on my place, there's still a big debate about that, whether or
Mm-hmm.
not they can actually go fast on that lake. And there are those that don't because they don't believe that you can, and there are those that do whatever they want. because
Yeah.
they believe that they can. So I'm not really sure. I believe that the state has made the interpretation that it was only that small area that is a no-wake zone in Dexter Township. So,
I can see that being a no-wake lake.
yeah, in fact, it would be, biologically, it would be a very smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other questions for our treasurer? Next agenda item, concerns of planning commission members, director of planning and zoning, township supervisor, recording secretary, and while we're doing that, let me pass these things down to the ends, and you can maybe be looking at that. So, guess let's start from the left. Maris, any concerns?
No.
Chandra?
No.
Alicia?
No.
Tom?
Nope.
Christie?
I just wanted to follow up on a couple comments from prior meetings that Bob had mentioned that, about the trees on North Territorial that are dead.
Oh, yeah.
And so Karen Sekenga brought that up with the road commission.
Good.
And they're aware of it, but they think that that problem is going to be somewhat alleviated by this work that Maris just mentioned.
Yes.
The work that's going to lower the North Territorial. They're taking out a lot of trees, so they think they'll take care
But
of
that's to the
that.
west of Dexter Town Hall, primarily.
Yes.
Right? The thing that my concern was, and I noticed it again today coming in, and just waiting for that tree to go down. There's one really big oak that is completely hollow, and it's coming down. I just don't know when. I mean, soon.
And where is this one, Bob?
Is that-
Just east of Dexter Town Hall on the south side.
Yeah, I was wondering that same thing. That's the one that's sprayed with red and the whole
I'm colorblind.
inside
I
looks.
don't know. Maybe it is spring.
Oh, well, maybe it looks like it's sprayed green in that case, but it's, yeah, sprayed, I think, red on each side and a big hollow.
It looks like it's marked for removal.
Yeah.
It looks like it's spray painted.
Is it the one that's completely hollow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I
and
didn't even see
It
the
looks like they
red.
spray painted
Qualifies as a
it,
tiny
marking it
house.
for future removal, so I think
Oh.
it's probably on the
Okay.
plan.
And they do, it is, the future removal is kind of like they get to it when they get to it, when they have the resources for the
Right.
money,
Right.
so it might still take a while.
Well,
You could
this'll
still
be-
that one
do
was awful.
like a quick
I know.
fix. If
It
it's,
does look.
that's what I would do.
If it's gonna take a while, the tree will be down.
Yeah, that one looks
Yeah.
awful.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It looks, again, and the thing is, it is hanging over the road. I mean, there's only one way that thing can go when it goes. And if it's during rush hour in the morning or something, it's not going to be pretty, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you brought it up to them and that they're now aware
Yeah,
of it.
Karen did that,
Yeah.
so. She also brought up the intersection at Dexter, Pinckney, and Fleming that is of concern. And I think the road commission says that those types of intersections really should have a roundabout. And I don't know if that's practical for that area, but they, again, it's like a money issue, so they don't have enough money to do all the roundabouts they should do. So they're aware of the issue though. So in terms of the road committee, one thing that we talked about doing, hopefully in conjunction with the master plan rule out to the public, is to get public input on intersections that they think are dangerous. Because we do think there's things they could do besides a roundabout, like they could put in a three-way stop at some of these intersections, and people might not like it, but it would certainly get people to slow down and take their turns going through intersections. So we're gonna try to get some input and momentum on making some of the intersections safer.
Thank you, Christy.
That's
Do you have anything else? Bob?
There's one thing that I've always been curious about. Sometimes we bring it up. On the agenda, we have 2 opportunities for public comment. And in our notes, we always say that most of the time, we say that there was no public comment. And the reason that there was no public comment is because there was no public. And Janice, can somebody from the viewing audience have a public comment that you would notice but we wouldn't? They can't.
I have no way of knowing who is viewing what their comments are.
All right. Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is I think there's some value in maybe mentioning that if we're saying there's no public comment, that parenthetically we could say there's no public.
Yes.
I think that's significant.
Yeah, and I did mention that at the beginning of this meeting, just so anybody watching knows, the record can reflect that. But yeah, so in a Zoom meeting, there would be an opportunity, but live stream is like a one-way thing. But yeah, I appreciate that point, that when there is nobody here, I think it helps to note that as the reason why there's no public comment.
I really think, I do think that it's important, because there are opportunities when we have a very highly controversial issue to go over, and the room could be filled with folks, but they don't make a comment in the public about that specific item because it doesn't, they're not supposed to, at least in the first one, they're not permitted to address the issues at hand. But during the issue, they can comment all they want.
So the way we normally do that is if we had an issue, like if there was a site plan approval before us or something like that, or what's the last one? It might have been the marijuana ordinance or something. So there was an actual public hearing. So the other comment, the beginning and the end of the meeting, is just, what do you have to say about something that's not on the agenda? The agenda item presumably is the subject of a public hearing that gets open, people participate or not, then it gets closed. Yeah, but yes, to your point, most of the time, it's not a public hearing.
By doing that, by making record of the fact that there is no public, there may be a reason for that to have value down the road for something. I don't know what it would be, but
I tend to agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, somebody might wonder at some point why something or another, and yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Can I make 2 comments?
It's your turn.
Since I'm recording secretary for the Board of Trustees also, and I want to note that the Land Preservation Committee minutes reflect no public present.
Oh, there you
So
go.
I can transfer that to your minutes also, no public present.
There you go.
Also, the new board agenda format is the first call for public comment is on agenda items. On agenda items. The last call is on non-agenda items. That's how Karen has formulated her agenda.
And that would make more sense to me because there wouldn't be a public hearing on every item of business, and yet that's why people are going to show up. And once you've taken that action, it's kind of too late. Yeah, good.
Right.
Anything else?
And I want to note also that Karen has eliminated the Pledge of Allegiance on her agenda.
Oh,
So I don't know who's going to be doing the agenda for the next meeting since Dave won't be here.
She's doing the agenda before she leaves. Michelle is doing she's.
No, the agenda for the next planning commission meeting.
Oh, okay.
If you want to change the first public comment to agenda items and the second call to public as non-agenda items and eliminate the pledge of allegiance in the next planning commission agenda, that's up to you guys. I just wanted to point out that that's where the board is right now.
Let's take that up next time after we've had a chance to review if that's covered in our bylaws or not. I don't know why we need to restrict, for this group, because if there was something, we would have a public hearing, let people talk about whatever's on their minds, whether it's an agenda item or not, at either the first or second. But we probably ought to take a moment and just see if what I just said might conflict with bylaws. And as far as, Pledge of Allegiance, I'd prefer to keep it unless that conflicts with bylaws. That's the pleasure of the group too. So we might want to think about that one for next time if anybody wanted to do anything different. You have anything else?
I'm going to miss David.
Yeah, I was going to say, before I give it for whatever complaints David could possibly have working with this group, I just, and I do have this one other thing, don't let me skip that, but I just wanted to thank David for all of his work. You've been absolutely great to work with, from my perspective, whether I was chair or not, and even more from how I saw you help people at ZBA. When a township resident comes, maybe that's their only interaction ever with their township government, and because they live in a particular area with a particular lot size, it might be something as simple as they want to redo their porch. And David is the person that helps them through that process. And a lot of times around the lakes, that does require an appeal because they're encroaching on something already from 60 years ago. But that to me is a huge differentiator in what I have seen, not just here, but over past history with public servants. That's just huge. So thank you very much for everything you've done for us, and congratulations on the new position. And somebody is getting a real good one. Hate like heck to lose you. So now try to complain about. It doesn't say complaints. It says concerns. I shouldn't be that way. It says concerns of Director of Planning and Zoning.
I don't have any complaints, I don't have any concerns. I really enjoyed working on the commission and the CBA in particular. I think that you guys have all been really good stewards and representatives of the township, so I've really enjoyed that aspect. So,
As have you.
Yeah.
I'm sure the next person that comes in here will do a great job as well. So,
Yeah, they will hear stories for a long time about how David used to do it.
I'm sure they'll do a better job. So,
That does.
as long as they continue to have solid citizen forwards to work with, they'll be fine.
Well, thank you for everything. The last issue, my concerns, I guess, yeah. So this thing that I passed along, there is an event starting tomorrow afternoon, runs into the evening. There's an organization, Ann Arbor 2030 District. They're having a workshop, a get-together tomorrow, mainly on achieving carbon neutrality. And while I imagine that Ann Arbor has a little bit different emphasis on things with the number of commercial buildings, apartments, and condos and that, it may be of interest to members of the Planning Commission. Now, unfortunately, my goof up was, when this originally came last week, and I'm kind of scrolling through township emails, there's spam about different things and different groups, and you want to go to this seminar or something. as I was catching up on emails this morning, I realized that nuts, that isn't one of those, this is a for real legitimate event that's local. So my understanding is now Supervisor Sakinga may or may not be able to move her schedule around to do this. Last I heard, it sounded like she was going to maybe accomplish that.
I didn't see that.
And it sounds like there would be the ability for at least one other township representative to go for free. And I'm not sure, especially if you take a look at the email that I forwarded you, I think the code for getting in free is maybe actually unlimited. But I did exchange some emails with Jan Culbertson from Scioto Township, who is heading up this thing, and yeah, we can send at least one other person. So if anybody wants to do that, you can either respond to that email directly, send Jan an email directly, or there's a link that you can sign up. So anyhow, that's
Did
all I
she
had
just
for that.
reply to you in that email? Because I didn't, all I saw was the email that she said she
you know what?
couldn't make it.
Yeah, Karen added you to the one, and I added Karen to my response to Janice, and I think she added.
Okay,
so
that's why I didn't see it.
She's probably replying to that one, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, Karen, and I think Karen responded to that one, that's Karen, Jan, and me.
oh, yeah, because I only
Yeah, I
got-
think Karen was gonna try to move her schedule around to get there.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So anyhow, there's that. If somebody wants to go to it, maybe declare your intention now. Otherwise, and that would just be in case we hit our limit for how many can go for free. But otherwise, yeah, do with that as you will. Maris and I each had some level of interest, but each have conflicts that will not allow us to do that. All right, I think that's the end of the concerns from everybody. If the record could please reflect that at 7:32, we opened up for public comment, and there still is no public at our meeting, and public comment will be closed. Future agenda items. David, anything that you can think of that we've got coming at us?
Besides the return of the master plan in October, potentially some ordinance and text amendments, but that will depend on who's going to be filling the position and how quickly they get up to speed. Nothing particularly pressing, or that I see is kind of an issue for the township, so, but it's so early in the summer, so something may pop up. There
All right.
is one agenda item, I would not expect it until maybe August, I think more likely September, Cornwood Farms is going to do a site plan amendment, so they're expanding, modest expansion of a couple structures and connecting some of the other structures. They're trying to remove that tent they have up every summer in the lake, so they can have some more permanent facilities there. So they're in the beginning stages. They have some, they'll be coming to the planning commission with some site plan. This will be the first site plan that's coming to the new zoning ordinance. So there's some tweaks. There's also some parking. There's some parking issues that they want to address. The new ordinance, I think, is going to help them out in terms of surfacing. So it should be a fairly interesting kind of site plan. So.
All right, good, thank you. Anybody have anything about anything? Otherwise, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll move to adjourn.
Moved by Met, support by Nestor. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Motion carried, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Janice, just give us the all clear when you got it, please.
So the cross are all the way over here, but and then the odds
Oh,
are
that's,
here.
yeah. No.
Well,
It's
I don't really
if it's-
like
If it's
that.
in a book format like that,
Yeah.
then maybe it would be on the outside if it had a binding on it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how is this
Still
gonna
not
be
bad.
formatted?
But
Do we know? Like,
The
and not, I mean,
issue is that-
what, how is it?
No, that's,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I always bring Marty's attention.
I was gonna
If he
say
thinks
something
that's
during the
proper for
meeting,
something
but-
that opens like this. I think something that opens like this, it would be appropriate.